Boom. Let's hit that record and let's start. We got the Midnight Bullet, baby. Sweet. All right. Well, hello, and welcome to the Rock Metal Podcast. I am your host, John Harris, and today on the Rock Metal Podcast, we have Midnight Bullet, and they are working on a new album called Hostile Resistance. They've got a new single out called Hostile Resistance, and right now I'm being joined by Thomas to share some more information about this upcoming release, the single that's been released, and then also as well, we're going to chat about a track called Angel of Babylon that will be released in March. This episode will more than likely air in March, so we're just scooching and booching. So Thomas, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, and thanks for having me. It's a pleasure talking with you again.
Absolutely. Now, you mentioned chatting with me again, which is true because you guys were on the show at this point just about 2 years ago?
A couple of years ago, yeah. That's about right.
Okay. Let's update. What's happened in the last 2 years?
Okay, so we released Into the Fire album, which was 2019, and since that, of course, last year we all know what happened, with this global pandemic. So it's been a bit of bummer for all the bands and for the gigs and so on. So, but again, now we did have a pretty good time to write new material. So we have a lot of good songs and finding a new way of inspiration again. A lot of stuff going on, like writing a part of this with this band. So we'll see how this year goes. And we're in the studio working with new songs. And of course, we did some gigs when we released Into the Fire album. So, but so far, gigs are banned, as we know.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I'm taking a look at a lot of things right now. I'm taking a look at the episode number was 406. So for anybody out there who wants to check out the interview that we did last go, it was June 22nd, 2019, episode 406. So you can go to therockmetalpodcast.ca. You can type in Midnight Bullet. It should pop up. If you're listening on like Spotify or something, it should pop up there too, but it will be guaranteed to pop up for sure on the website. Now, you also mentioned the studio, and it appears as though you guys are in a studio in this music video for Hostile Resistance. But at the same time, I'm taking a look at the candelabra that's over on the wall, and it looks a lot like that candelabra right there. So are you actually in the studio right now?
That's right. Yeah, this is this is our studio where I'm talking right now.
Okay, so you guys have a personal studio?
Yeah, we have. This is kind of our rehearsal place, and this is where the magic happens.
Wow.
We've recorded all our albums here, actually, and so this is a pretty good place.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
In our hometown.
Mm-hmm.
Takes a lot of, this is, I think this is a very good place to have because it takes a lot of about the stress and, the hurry, the element away from the recording or, when we come here, it feels like a home.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Well, it probably explains why, because even though you're chatting on, your earbuds, like I'm not hearing any room echo. It sounds, like ironically, you're in a control room. So, yeah, you.
That's true, right? Yeah, we have a lot of. It's not exactly the foam, but we have all kind of stuff on the walls that surrounds the sound. So whatever we're recording here, so we can play drums or especially the vocals or whatever. So this room doesn't have any echoes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Is this you playing the Gibson Explorer in the music video?
Yeah, that's me. That's my guitar. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Take us through the signal chain, because I was actually curious when I was watching this, because I see, some amps in the background. Are you mic'd up behind you tracking guitars?
No, actually, I'm using a Kemper. So that's I'm not quite sure how you say it in English, but I don't know if you're familiar with that amp. But it's kind of simulating the amp sound already. So nowadays, of course, when we have a lot of the technical part is so developed nowadays, so it's much easier. Well, I guess it's a wrong way to say it's easier to do good sounding records, but it definitely helps you to get there sound wise because we have so good equipment nowadays.
I looked up how to say it in Finnish because it's a profiler.
Profiler. Yeah.
Profiloija.
Pretty much, yeah, something like that, yeah.
Okay, something like that. Perfect. So anybody listening in who's curious, you just look up Kemper. I think it's Kemper amps or Kemper profiler. But different than a simulator, different than an emulator, it actually sucks the soul out of your entire signal chain. So when you're playing with it, you're not playing with a simulation of an amp and a simulation of a cabinet and a simulation of a microphone. You're actually playing through a digital copy of that entire signal chain.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, which is cool. Now I'm curious, if you don't mind sharing, what is that signal chain that you're playing through in the Kemper? Is it one that you made, like with some of the amps there?
Yeah. Well, it's a custom made. Well, basically the basic is EVH, so Eddie Van Halen 5150 cabinet, and then also I'm using another profiler, which is the kind of the mix up, and I'm using actually when I do records, when I'm tracking the songs, I'm using two guitars, so that there is a quite of guitar wall on the songs. So I'm using a Gibson and LTD, and then I have this Kemper. I'm using the EVH profile, and then I also have PV, like the classic 5150 profile.
Okay, so we got a 5150 and a 5153. How do you feel that they are? I mean, obviously they're different, but one's made by Fender, the other one's made by PV. I've chatted with PV about the 5150 and the 6505 in previous years. I know a lot of people feel that they're different amps. PV says they're the exact same. How do you feel tonally the differences are between, say, a 5150 and the 5153?
Well, I like to use the 5153 because it has more like a body and more like a low frequencies. And then I'm using bringing up the clarity from the 5150. Yeah, that's the way I'm using it. I'm not quite sure if that's right and how the people normally use it, but that's the way I use it.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. Another way I've heard of it is 5153 for that low end body, that more lower mid range body, and then something else that has a lot of mid range, like an Engel or a Bogner. Something has that tighter mid range focus to help create a more complete guitar sound. For
sure.
Because I saw the Laney and I was really excited that you guys you have a Laney in there. Maybe the Laney's on the album, but now I'm very disappointed. I'm so sad. I'm sad.
I'm sorry to disappoint you. Yeah. Actually, in this room and in this studio, there are quite many bands using this studio. So that's not our gear.
Okay.
That's actually that Laney is our previous bass player's guitar amps. So that Tipi Nokelainen, who is our drummer's big brother, who is not currently playing anymore with us. So that's Laney's his amps.
Okay. Sweet. And I'm just curious because you guys have the studio footage recording the drums. Obviously a really good sound. The room seems to be, fairly treated. You guys have the front head off of the kick drum, a few paddings in there. I guess if you take us through more of the record, like how did you guys track bass, drums, vocals? Did you guys kind of do it together and then do overdubs? Did you do it individually?
Well, basically, I think we did a little different way this time. This these songs and even this album we're working a little bit different. So basically where we start is that Lauri is a pretty good to write riffs. He's very talented with that. So he kind of basically hits me up with some idea, and then I start record some kind of demo. And now I just did some kind of like a drum machine drums first, and then I started to record like a guitars and to build it up a little bit. And after that, when I'm finished with the first demo, then we come in the studio and then we start to record the drums. So kind of basically there are pretty much stuff already recorded when we start to record the drums nowadays.
Yeah.
And after that, when we finish the drums, then we start to record the bass, and then I might add some rhythm guitar parts, and then I do the vocals, and pretty much Lauri does the solos at last.
Mm-hmm.
He wraps up the song. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. And then it looks like there's some live footage in here as well. When would have been done?
That was after the Into the Fire album release.
Okay, so then these tracks, have they been around for a while, these new tracks?
Actually, no. We finished those tracks around New Year's Eve.
Okay.
Christmas holidays. So.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So they haven't been around quite. Yeah.
Okay. Dun, 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 dun. Oh man. Okay. Now my next question then is, okay, so Angel of Babylon. Is there a concept to the album? The only reason I ask is because usually whenever bands write songs about angels or Babylon or angels of Babylon, I don't know, usually a concept some kind, and they're, I don't know, Babylon, as far as I know, didn't have any hostile resistance. They just left the door unlocked, and then that was the end of it. But now they're just a pile of sand somewhere. But how is there a concept to the album, or what is the Angel of Babylon?
Well, yeah, they basically. I'm not quite sure how to start to to explain this, but Angel of Babylon is it's about a metaphor about. Well, first of all, it means the inner battle of yours when you're having inner battles with yourself, and also there is a meaning of Western decadence, I would say. Mm-hmm. Like there are two ways to look at it, the song, and the concept of the album, which is with the hostile resistance and Angel of Babylon, is that kind of the polarization of the world at the moment, that we are having conflicts all around the world, and the people who are fighting, they want to keep the control of the power, and they're not willing to give up the power. I wouldn't say that. I don't want to name any presidents or but whatsoever, but like a politics and all that kind of stuff. People when they have that power, they don't want to give it up.
No.
So that's kind of the basic idea of the album and those songs.
Okay. So I guess the question then is, if 2020 hadn't happened, would we have a different album in our hands?
That's a good question, actually. I think that we are very fortunate in a way that we have a regular day jobs, and that kind of, well, there are pros and cons with that. Obviously, sometimes it's a good thing that we're not so, that the money side, we can support our family and ourselves. It doesn't come all from the music, but of course, how to say? I'm not quite sure how to say it, but like I mean that we did find a new way of inspiration. That we had a last album, Into the Fire. We had a more dynamic songs, and we had a ballads and or whatever. But now this album, there is a raw energy and more. This is a lot more energetic album coming out. So I think there is a pretty good chance this would be this kind of album what is coming out, even if we didn't have like a 2020. Because we don't. I was trying to say previously that we don't need to force our music to be anything else than what comes out naturally in any way. That was something I was trying to say. So okay. There is a pretty good chance that this album would have happened like it is at the moment.
Okay. Now you mentioned a few things there. How is life in Finland these days, and is it getting better with regard to everything that's happened?
Small steps. It's hard to say at the moment because nobody really doesn't know how things are gonna go and turn. So, like in Finland, we still have like a festivals coming in summer, but nobody knows if we can really have those festivals at the moment. So small steps, but we'll see.
Okay. Very, very cool stuff. Hopefully you guys will be able to do some things coming up here. Cool. Is there anything else you wanted to chat about, Tuomas, before we sign off today? I believe that exhausts all of my questions.
Okay. Well, I'm not quite sure. How you're doing? What is going on in your
where I am? Yeah, that's well, I mean, we finally had winter, which was nice. So, this whole winter, it was just hovering around 0 Celsius, and we did have some snow, but I don't know, didn't feel very wintry for here. So finally, we had our minus 40 Celsius. We had that for most of February, a vortex. And I was actually just looking up, it looks like we're about the same right now in Finland. In Helsinki, anyway, it said it was minus 16 Celsius. So it's currently minus 13 here.
Yeah.
Of course, it's dark in Finland. It's nighttime. It's like 8 o'clock there for you.
Yeah.
But sun is obviously out now for me, and it's getting sunnier, and I have a feeling it's going to be a very nice summer. So,
okay, let's hope so. Yeah.
Where I am, we are opening up the economy dreadfully, and there's a lot of concern about that. But that's what, speaking of politicians, that's what the politicians want to do here where I live. People with education are saying that is probably not a good idea. But why should we listen to people who went to school, Tuomas? Yeah.
Sorry.
Why should we listen to people who went to school, Tuomas?
Why should we listen to people who go to school?
Yeah. Why even have experts? Why should we listen to experts? But anyway, yeah, no, I think we'll be okay for the most part. We're cruising.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Do you have festivals around your area coming in the summertime?
Not that I'm aware of. We usually do. But I don't know what's happening with those festivals right now. I imagine that they will not be happening.
Okay. Yeah. That's true.
There are some that happen earlier, and there are some that happen later. Maybe the ones that happen later in like September, they might be happening, but there's some around here that start happening here in like March, April that probably won't be happening.
Yeah. Actually, what comes to publishing the music, there are two kind of ways to look at it. Some people say that, there is no reason to publish the music because you can't go to play gigs in any way. But I personally think that this is actually a pretty good time to release music because there aren't those gigs and maybe people wants to hear some. People have more time to listen to new music and new releases. So I kind of understand that why bands doesn't want to release, new music, because you can't go to play gigs, and unfortunately that's pretty much where the money comes from nowadays, from the gigs. I don't know if that's a unfortunate, but because live gigs is why we are doing this, because it's the most, it's pretty awesome to play live gigs. I would say. But again, like I said that I think it's pretty cool to release new music now, when people are spending time in their home, and maybe people wants to hear new music, have a little, lights of enjoy in their lives.
A little midnight bullet.
like us, yeah.
That's right. Beautiful. Okay, well, that concludes all of my questions, Tuomas. So wanted to thank you for coming on to the Rock and Roll Podcast today.
Thanks for having me. Thanks again. Yeah. It was a pleasure.
Absolutely.